So like Sam was saying, my name is Catarina. I am a clinical psychologist. I am from Lisbon. I'm Portuguese. I've worked in the UK for many, many years, and I've just moved back to my city 3 months ago. And I've been doing some work with the Plastic Anemia Trust for some time now. I run the managing stress courses for them. And if you've never done one, I encourage you to sign up for next ones that become available. It's a really interesting course, and people I think they are taking a lot out of it. What we're going to do today, it's actually a small snapshot of some of the things that we do on that course. So we'll have a first kind of half an hour of me chatting and talking about sleep and talking about strategies to help you with sleep. But sleep, it's such a complex thing that I wouldn't be able to exhaust all the information in a 45 minutes webinar. So this is a taster, and if there's anything more that you need to know or you want to know, just reach out to us and we'll be able to help you more with that. So we will do 30 minutes, 35 minutes of talking, and then I will do a 10 minutes relaxation exercise that I will then encourage you to try on your own pace at home as well. And I will kind of post and send to Sam and to Vicky following up this webinar some links that they can then disseminate to all the group. So you can have materials coming out of this and you can continue trying to improve your sleep moving forward. And then the last 15 minutes are a Q&A session, and we will see how it goes from there. Like I said, I'm clinical and health psychologist, and I've worked with long-term health conditions for most part of my career. A big chunk of my career was also in cancer care. So there's a lot of things that we can kind of talk about and explore today. I hope so. Okay. So if you don't mind me starting, I know that webinars are a bit strange because they are less interactive than a live group. But I will do my best to kind of go back in time and talk at a pace that everyone can follow. If there's anything that I say that you don't understand, if there's any questions that show up for you, just write them on a paper and we can go back to them by the Q&A part of this webinar tonight. So I guess that the first thing that I want to tell you is that the importance of sleep overall, right? People used to say that sleep is it's such an essential part of our lives, and the sorry, oh, you all disappeared from my screen, but you came back. I apologize for that. So sleep is an essential part of what we do every day. It's an essential part as drinking water, as eating food, as air for the human beings, right? When it's necessary, right? Human beings can go without sleep for a period of time, but that can never be too long, or it can never take a long time. There are things in life that where we expect to be without sleep, and it's almost if our brain and our body prepares for that. So for like a mixture of things, for women, for example, that have children, right? When we have a child, when we're taking care of our grandkids, we expect to go without sleep. So it's almost if our body prepares for that, right? If we go for a late dinner or a late party, we expect to be without sleep. So our bodies and our minds prepare for that. And the same when we go through stress, right? When we go through stress and we are going through a heavy treatment, or when we spend time in the hospital, it's almost if our body prepares for that. And what does that is a hormone that we call adrenaline, right? So adrenaline keeps us up, right? Keep us right up and keep us energetic so we can continue and moving forward. And that's why after situations like that, we quite often crash, and we feel exactly the opposite, right? So if we've been at the hospital or through an heavy treatment during a period of time, it's quite normal that after that period, you just feel very tired and you just really need to rest. So the other thing that it's important to talk about, it's that sleep, it's not only good for your mind, it's good for your mind, it's good for your body, because sleep has this function of being restorative. And some of you have heard about this idea of sleeping being restorative. So while we sleep, and that's why sleep is so important, our body is taking care of sending away the waste that we produce throughout the days, right? So when we walk, when we do activities, when we think, our body became tired and tired and tired, right? And we produce what we call energetic waste. While we sleep, all those things got released out of the body, right? We give time for our muscles to rest, we give time for our minds to rest. So it's almost like sleep works like a reset. You know, when we are working in the computer and the computer says that it needs to be reset, you need to kind of let it shut down and then open up again. That's a little bit what we do with sleep, right? This idea that we need to shut ourselves down and then restart again with the day, right? And that's really, really hard. It's really, really hard to do, particularly when we are going through ill health situations, because one of the things that it's mostly affected when people are going through ill health situations is our sleep condition. Right? Not only because of the treatments that we are going through, but also because some of the treatments create pain, some of the treatments create discomfort in the body, some of the treatments become needing to go to the toilet quite often. But also some of the treatments, or most of the treatments, or the ill health situation will create stress. And stress directly impacts our quality of sleep, right? So the other thing that it's important to do is that when we sleep, because of this restorative function, right? Because we are resetting our brain and our body, we are really taking care of memory and concentration. Memory and concentration has a limited capacity, right? Our minds cannot concentrate on everything at the same time. We cannot memorize everything at the same time. So while we are sleeping, imagine that inside of your head you had these two little guys, right? They are putting everything in little boxes that happen throughout the day, and they are kind of refreshing what happened and creating more space for more memories, right? And this is what sleep does as well, right? And because of that, when we sleep, our capability of concentrate better, our capability of memorizing more things increase. And it increases because the clutter that we create throughout the day becomes organized while we sleep, right? So metaphorically, like I was saying, is like having two little people inside of our minds, arranging things in puzzles, putting things in boxes, right? So we can bring more things in and create more memories and concentrate more. Also, sleeping, it's very important for growth, right? We hear our parents, grandparents, people say that kids need to sleep because when they sleep, they grow. I say this to my son every single night, right? He's a terrible sleeper. So he goes to bed late and he wakes up at 6 a.m. every day, right? And I often say to him, sleep, it's good for your growth. When you sleep, you grow. And sometimes I think that he looks at me and he thinks that's not true because he can't see that he's moving an inch. But actually, it is true, because what it's growing, it's our capacity to incorporate the world more and more, right? We become, like I was saying, better in concentration, better in memory functions, but also our immune system becomes better because the waste that I was talking about before gets released from the body, right? So when we sleep, we tend to get less prone to catching small bugs, right? We all remember moments in our lives where sleep was so bad that it seems that that we will catch every single virus, and we feel constantly tired, right? And the effect of sleep will help us with that as well, right? There are two important things about sleep, right? Our sleep drive, right? And the sleep drive, before that, there are two important things that I want to tell you about sleep, so I don't lose my concentration and I remember to tell you everything that I need to tell you. So one of the things is the sleep drive, and I'll explain to you what it is. And the other thing, it's your internal body clock, right? I'm pretty sure that you've heard about these two concepts before, but it might be important to look at them a little bit more on detail, right? So we can understand why are they so important and the knowledge that they bring, right? I often say when I run my sleeping workshop, and Sam knows that awareness and knowledge, that's the most important tool, right? So from the moment that you know something, you become more prepared to change that something, right? If you have no idea what's happening, if you have no idea why things are important for you, if that awareness is not there, then you don't feel inclined to change anything because you don't know why you are changing it, right? So if people say to you, you should sleep, but they don't explain to you why should you, right? It's less, it's of course you'll be less motivated to do that, right? So sleep drive and internal body clock, right? Two things that we need to talk about. So sleep drive, the sleep drive, it's like the body's tracker of your sleep, right? It's the message that your mind sends to your body and to your brain that you need to sleep, you know? So the sleep drive, it's that moment when you start to feel very sleepy, right? And normally the sleep drive, it's dictated by two little things that we have in the back of our eyes, right? That normally are activated by the end of the day, right? And that make you want to go to sleep, right? I'll tell you a little story so you can understand the sleep drive a little bit better. I'm Portuguese, like I said to you, right? And when I moved to the UK, I moved to Inverness. And I moved to Inverness in September, right? So just as we were about to start winter, right? November arrived and I started to feel so, it was not even sick, was tired, really tired. 2 o'clock arrived, 3 o'clock arrived, and I just wanted to sleep. And I comment this with one of the girls that used to work with me, and I said to her, look, I think I need to go to the doctor. They need to draw some bloods or do something like that. And she said, no, what you need is to understand that by 3 o'clock, it's nighttime in Inverness. So your body clock, right? Your tracker of sleep, it's telling you it's time to go to bed. So you need to readjust that internal body clock, that internal tracker of sleep, right? And this is what happened to us. Sometimes when we are really stressed, our body, our mind loses the ability to understand that it needs to go to sleep because we are hypervigilant, right? We are so nervous, so worried about something that we lose that ability, right? Also, the sleep drive, it tracks the amount of sleep you need, right? And again, it's severely impacted by stress. And we already know that ill health really severely impacts stress as well, right? So if you are stressed, right, your sleep drive tends to become shorter. And that's because you think that you need to be always awake to take care of yourself, right? If your mind perceives that you are going under threat, there is a dangerous, the health situation is provoking some level of stress internally, right? What your mind does to you, it's say, no, I can't go to sleep because if I sleep, something can happen and I'm not going to notice. So we shrink, right? Our sleep drive becomes shorter. So we think, right, that we are preparing ourselves for the worst. Actually, we are making it worse for us, but it's really difficult to stop this. So I don't want anyone to feel guilty or blame themselves because of that. This is just physiological and internal mechanisms, right? So when you are awake, during the time that you are awake, right, your sleep drive does this. It's a curve up, right? It goes up, 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 up until a point where you feel that you need to go to sleep. When you fall asleep, your sleep drives goes down, right? On a curve, right? So during the day, you start your day with no sleep drive, right? You build that sleep drive until the point that you want to go to sleep. You go to sleep. While you sleep, it's the time that your sleep drive goes down, right? If you don't sleep, what we can see is that your sleep drive, it's always up. And that might be the reason why some of you might feel tired all the time and don't know why. Right? Because it's like if your body thinks that you always need to go to sleep, even if you don't, right? Even if you can't, right? So when your sleep drive is high, right? When you don't sleep and your sleep drive is high, like builds up throughout the day, your body will start to give you cues that it's important to go to sleep. And the cues, like I was saying, is feeling tired, right? Or some people feels grumpy, right? Or some people feel that they can't even listen to their partners. The sound of their voice is just annoying, right? Or they just everyone is late and everyone gets annoyed about something, right? And all of this, right, are sleeping cues, right? If you think about a small babies teach us a lot, right? When a small baby needs to sleep, can you remember how a small baby is before he needs to go to sleep? It's just this grumpy thing, isn't it? Just everything becomes a thing, right? He wants to eat, now he doesn't. He wants his mommy, now he doesn't. He wants a pee, now he doesn't. And we are the same. We are just bigger, right? And older, right? But the way that the sleep works, it's relatively the same. And then we have the body clock, right? So this is the sleep drive, right? It's the cue that we need to go to sleep, even if we don't respect that cue sometimes. And then we have the body clock, right? The body clock navigates the cycles throughout the day, right? It is responsible for the timing of your sleep, the time you go to bed, right? Some people have a body clock that tells them they need to go to bed at 7. Some people has a body clock that tells them they need to go to bed at midnight. Some people have a body clock that tells them that they need to sleep 4 hours per night. Some people only feel satisfied if they sleep 10 hours per night. So this is very different from person to person. The body clock is located in the brain, right? And they will send a message to your body, right? They will dictate your sleep drive. They will dictate your patterns, okay? Even though they are, or they look like slightly different processes, the sleep drive and the body clock, they work together, right? They influence together, and they must be synchronized, right? You cannot have a body clock telling you to go to sleep and a low sleep drive, right? So what happens with stress is exactly that, right? You have a really high sleep drive because you are tired, you are exhausted, but your body clock is telling you don't go to sleep because you need to be alert, right? And that's where the insomnia installs. So for the people in the group that struggles with insomnia, when these two things become desynchronized, the body clock and the sleep drive, that's the space of insomnia, right? So what we do is to find ways to synchronize them, right? By doing things that even when we don't sleep, we rest our body. So we send a different message to our brain that it's okay to relax, right? We'll talk about relaxation in a minute or two. And relaxation really helps us to do that, to synchronize these two things. But just moving forward a little bit with you, right? I guess that it's important for us to think about the effects of the lack of sleep, right? And I don't want to, like I was saying to you, I think that the importance of thinking about the effects of lack of sleep, it's to give you some understanding that perhaps some of your behaviors, right, are because of the lack of sleep, are not because you are just grumpy, right? And maybe knowing that, right, and knowing that you can explain that to your family, right? You can explain that to your kids, you can explain that to your husband, you can explain that to your work colleagues, right? That some of the things that are happening to you, they are actually not because you want to be like that. It's because right now you don't know how to be different. Your body is not responding you in ways that you can be different. So the effects of lack of sleep will create that knowledge, that awareness that will help you to understand there's nothing wrong with you apart from the insomnia. Okay, and that's enough already, right, to take on your plate, right? So like I was saying before, everyone is different in the room, right? So we have right now 17 people in the room, and I can guarantee that the amount of sleep, the sleep drive, and the internal body clock of all of us is very different, right? People used to say that when people grow older, they need to sleep less. That's kind of a myth, right? Some people do, some people don't. My grandpa used to sleep 12 hours a night, right? By 98, I think he was when he passed, right? 12 hours a night he needs to sleep. And if he sleep less than 12 hours a night, no one can be around him. It was impossible to be around him, right? So we all knew that he needed to sleep that time. My mom, for example, is a very functional person, sleeping 4 hours a night. Right? So people are very different, right? So this idea that if you grow older, you need less sleep, it's a little bit of a myth, right? What I want you to do is to start paying attention to what your body clock is telling you. What do you need in terms of sleep, right? And then asking yourself, what I'm having now, it's what I need. Because, sometimes it's very interesting that I've been talking about sleep forever, right? And sometimes people come to me and say, I have a problem with my sleep because I should be sleeping 8 hours. Because people say that 8 hours, it's the amount of sleep that an adult person needs to sleep. And we talk and we explore the situation, and actually that person doesn't need to sleep 8 hours, and is carrying a lot of responsibility and guilt because they think that 8 hours it's what they need to be sleeping, when actually with 7 hours, with 6 hours, the person goes perfectly well. So the important thing here, first of all, is for you to understand, and I'm not saying with this that that's your case and that insomnia doesn't exist. It exists. And it exists more amongst population that are going through a ill health related situation. Okay. So for most of you, that's not the reality. But it's also true that for most of you, it's important to understand what are your needs, right? And your needs might vary as well, right? If you are undergoing treatment, you might need more sleep than if you are not. Or there might be moments in the week. Some people are getting sleepy because of the conversation, right? It induces sleep. So it's about understanding where you sit. It's about understanding what your needs are, right? On average, we say that a grown-up person needs between 6 and 8 hours, but it's an average, right? Doesn't need to be that you sit on there, right? Regardless of the amount of sleep you need, right? The lack of sleep creates irritability, right? And creates mood disturbances, right? In the same way, right? I'm a clinical psychologist. So sometimes I have people that come to me and say, I think I'm depressed, right? Or I'm living with anxiety. And some people actually, what they have, it's a consequence of their lack of sleep. Right? So it is important for a clinical psychologist to look at the pathology behind it, but not over pathologize everything. Right? Some people, the reaction of the lack of sleep, it mirrors something similar to a depression, something similar to anxiety. Right? Doesn't necessarily mean that you will be anxious forever, you'll be depressed forever. It's a neurological consequence of the poor sleep. Right? It also impacts the judgment, our capacity to judge the situations, right? Our reaction, like I was saying before, poor concentration, memory, attention, right? And sometimes almost kind of poor physical coordination, when we are so tired that we start banging on things, or we leave the door of the fridge open, or we put our specs inside of the fridge and then we don't know where they are. So things like that, right? That we've all been there, right? For one reason or the other, right? But I guess that what I want to tell you is that give yourself some space of self-compassion on this. That some of those things that you might feel that you are doing right now, they might be because of the fact that you are going through a period of insomnia in your life, right? And also by giving yourself self-compassion, giving yourself the hope that things can become different, right? If you resolve a little bit this idea of insomnia. So, sorry. The other things that the other thing that I want to tell you is that what we need to try to find out is that sometimes when people are on this cycle of lack of sleep, right? One of the most common things, and we might have a chat about that on the Q&A. But one of the most common reactions is that people become anxious. And then people become anxious about sleep, right? It becomes the time to go to bed and I'm already anxious, right? And I have 35 rituals. It's my chamomile tea, my bath with lights, no TV, no phones, a specific blanket, a specific pillow. No one can watch television. I don't know. It's so many things, right? That actually that might be kind of getting in the against you, fight kind of it can be a by doing all of that you are creating another additional problem, right? If you ask someone, this is very interesting question. Try to ask this question. Think about someone in your lives that are a really good sleeper, right? Someone that you know that is a really good sleeper, and ask them, what do you do to sleep? And they will tell you, inevitably, 99% of the time, they will tell, I don't know. I just put my head in my pillow and I fall asleep. So sometimes we actually, by trying to fight this insomnia, we do so many things that we create an additional problem. And that additional problem brings worry, right? And worry is the first enemy of sleep. There's nothing worse, right? When we start worrying about sleep, right, we enter this cycle, right, of worrying. And the problem with worry is that worry never comes alone. And first is the worry about sleeping. And then because you don't sleep, it's the worry about your health. It's the worry about your treatment. It's the worry about your next appointment. It's the worry about this and this and this and that, right? And this is a very natural thing. I just want to tell you that this is so expectable to happen, right? Because the first thing is that it starts with the worry of not being able to sleep, right? So what we need to work on is not so much on the thing that you are worrying about, but finding a way to relax yourselves, even if you don't fall asleep, but to relax yourselves on that point that will stop the worry, right? So why it is so difficult, right, to stop the worry, right? First of all, because you have this enormous belief in your head that if you worry, you will anticipate the bad things, right? A lot of people go through this, right? If you don't worry, you will lose control, right? So you keep your mind active, right? What will I say to my doctor tomorrow, my appointment, right? And you go through, right? You go through all the conversation in your head, right? Or doesn't even need to be health related. Sometimes I had this argument with my wife and I should have said this and this and that, right? Or I have this girl at my work that we don't get along, and one day I will tell her this and that, right? So we create this idea that if we keep thinking, if we keep worrying, we'll keep ourselves under control, right? But actually we are just tiring our mind even more and more and more, right? You also believe that when you worry about you and about others, right, you are showing that you care. You care for others, you care for yourself, right? But again, you are just really exhausting yourself more and more and more, right? To stop the worry, the first thing you need to do, right, it's to stop the belief that worrying brings a positive purpose. There's nothing positive about worrying, right? It will not avoid a bad thing happening. It will not avoid a difficult conversation. It will not avoid the annoying girl at work, right? It will not make your appointment with your doctor disappear or change the course of that appointment per se. Right? Worrying, we're just going to keep you on this kind of bringing internal toxicity. So the first thing to stop worrying, actually, it's to allow yourselves to think that worrying doesn't have a positive purpose. The second thing, it's realizing that when you worry about sleep, about the things that you need to do in the day after, you are creating an additional problem. You already have the problem with a lack of sleep, right? When you worry about that, it's a second problem. And like I said to you, because worrying never comes alone, you are bringing all the other worries into the scenario, right? So you stay awake in bed all night, right? Or I always, when I do workshops like this or webinars like this, I avoid giving you lists of things to do to try to sleep, because I already told you that my son is a horrible sleeper. I've tried everything, and the thing that annoyed me the most when I complain about his sleep, it's someone telling me what I should try, because I already did. And I guess that for you, it's a little bit the same, right? You've already tried the chamomile tea. You've already tried not using your phone. You already tried using your phone. You already tried not watching television or watching television, staying in bed, not staying in bed, going to bed after dinner, not sleeping during the afternoon, you name it, right? I have no doubts that if you sign up to this webinar was because all your strategies didn't work. So perhaps what we need to think is, what can I give you additionally to that? And what I can give you additionally to that is a tool that can help you with the worry itself. You can continue trying all those things, see what works, right? There's not a magic list. Even the using the phone in bed, that it's like, the seventh sin, right? In most of the sleeping books. I know loads of people that fall asleep with their phones in their hands every single night, right? That's the problem. It's not necessarily there. The problem is that for some reason, your mind now believes that the time that you go to bed, it's a good time to worry about something. And it creates a space, right, where that you are using to worry. So strategies to stop the worry, it's what I think that I can give you additionally to everything you've already tried, right? We can talk if you want about simple things on the Q&A, right? But like I said, I think that most of you already tried most of the things that I can tell you. So if we think about worry, right, what are the strategies that can work for worry, right? One of the most useful strategy, it's to postpone the worry, right? And you would say to me, so should I stop thinking about it? Not necessarily, right? You will choose a time in a day where you will worry, but that time in the day should not be before going to bed, right? There are different things that you can do in this learning how to postpone your worry, right? You can have a notebook on your bedside table, right? And before you go to bed, you write all your worries in the notebook. You close it, put it inside of your drawer, and that's it until the next day, right? You can decide that you will worry from 11 to 12 in the day. And the rest of the day, every time that a worries come to your mind, you just say to yourself, nah, not 11. I have my time, right? I will worry at 11. And this is how we postpone the worry. What we are doing with this, it's to retrain our minds, right? Your mind right now, it's used to worry at a certain time of the night. We need to retrain it to worry at a different time of the day, because I can't stop the worry for you, right? And like I said, Sam knows me a little bit, and I'm a big advocate that stuff happens in life and it's awful, but it happens, and there's nothing that we can do to avoid it, right? And the energy that we spend trying to avoid it, it's energy that we can use looking after ourselves, right? So instead of spending that energy trying to avoid it, finding a space, right? From 11 until 12, I will worry, or I will write my worries, right? And that will be my time. And that's what called the postponing the worry. The other thing, it's a simple exercise that it's called a worry tree. And a worry tree, it's simply looking at, is this problem that I'm worrying about solvable or unsolvable? If it's solvable, what's the solution? Let's go ahead and do it. But if it's unsolvable, and most of the problems that you think at night are unsolvable, it's trying to drop it, right? To put it aside, right? There's no need for us to worry about things that we can solve, we can solve or we can sort. And again, it's just energy that we can be using to do other things for ourselves. The third thing that we can do that it's very important, it's breathing meditations or mindfulness or relaxation. Right? And I will send to Sam and Vicky a few kind of a list of resources with stuff that you can try at home, because like I said, a 45 minutes webinar, I could never have time to give you everything, right? But you are more than welcome to sign up to one of our managing stress courses, and more of this will be talked about. But breathing exercises, it's a way to retrain our brain, right? You know what I said to you at the beginning of the webinar today, that one of the motives why we worry is because we perceive threat. We are scared because of our health, because of what's happening to us. So what we do when we breathe is to tell our brain that it's okay to calm down, right? That's what the breathing exercise does. That's what relaxation does, right? There's different types of relaxations. I will try to kind of create a kind of a nice file for you that you can use in different occasions and in different situations. But I wonder if we can do just kind of a 5 minutes breathing exercise just now, really simple one, at a grounding, I call it a grounding exercise or anchoring exercise. And then we can open the Q&A, and I would love to listen to you, and at the best of my ability, I don't know if I have all the answers, I might not, but at the best of my ability, try to support you with any questions that might arise from my conversation or from my words. Is that okay? Okay. So this breathing exercise, it's quite interesting because it's the type of exercise that you can do with your eyes open, right? You don't need to be at a position or kind of taking time aside or doing anything specifically to do it. What we are doing is to ground ourselves, right? It's to anchor ourselves. So my first invitation is that you put your 2 feet on the floor, right? And you really feel the floor underneath you, right? And while you do that, you just take a deep breath in and you breathe out. And you take another deep breath in and you breathe out. And while you do that, you really feel the points of contact with the feet, with the floor that it's supporting you. You can exert a little bit of pressure if you want. And you start feeling your body, right? Your feet, your lower legs, your upper legs, your lower back and your upper back. And you feel all the points of contact with your body, with the chair that is supporting you now. And while you do that, you take another deep breath in and you breathe out. Take another deep breath in and you breathe out. And I invite you to concentrate in something that you can listen now. Something that you can listen around you. You might hear some noises, people talking in your house in another rooms, or your neighbors, or birds are outside, or the wind, or rain. I don't know where you are right now. Or traffic, even if you're in the middle of the city. Just pay attention to what you hear. And while you do that, just take another deep breath in and breathe out. Think about things you can hear again. Is there anything else? Take another deep breath in and breathe out. Okay. And this is just the type of exercise that you can actually do anywhere, right? And the good about this is that stops the flow of worry for 3 minutes. That was the duration of it. We started 12 past 7 and it's now 15 past 7. But you can do it in a shorter span of time, or you can do it in a longer span of time. That's up to you. The idea here is to kind of cut the stream of worry, right? Reset the mind. And this is something that you can do at night as well, when you start feeling that your mind becomes too full of stuff. Moving out of your mind to your body and then to the environment around you. If you are more kind of a visual person, instead of thinking about things you can hear, you can think about things you can see as well. And for some people, that works better. Okay. Right.